Welcome back to another episode of the Untitled Football Podcast. Today, we're going to talk about week number 5, preview week number 5. Pretty bad slate of games if you ask me, but let's get right into it. Oh, before I get right into it, the mock draft that I've been teasing for about half a century now is probably going to come out on Friday. I wanted to do a quarterly one. I wanted to wait till week 4 was over, and it is. So I'm going to do a mock draft on a posting on Friday. 2021 NFL mock draft will probably drop on Friday. If it doesn't, then, well, it doesn't. But let's get right into the games. Starting off with the Thursday nighter, Tampa Bay Buccaneers versus the Chicago Bears. Tampa Bay comes into this game 4.5-point favorites, almost universally. You can get them as high as 5. On the look ahead, I think they were favored heavier than they are now. Because earlier, it started off at 3 and got all the way out to 4.5 to 5.5 now. I mean, that's interesting. The Bears coming off of a loss to the Indianapolis Colts. The Colts, I mean, they look good, but I don't know if I think some of that or most of that is due to the opponents they've played. Like Jets, Vikings, Jags, who they lost to, and then the Bears. Like, they don't have. I don't know. This isn't about the Colts yet. I don't think the Bears are that good though. I mean, Foles gives you some variance, and if you're gonna blitz him like Justin Herbert, like you did Justin Herbert, he can make those throws that Justin Herbert made down the field. And it's not like Justin Herbert's the golden standard of QB play. But Nick Foles is really under pressure. Nick Foles is sometimes one of the best quarterbacks and sometimes not one of the best quarterbacks. So if you blitz Nick Foles a ton, if you blitz Justin Herbert a ton, then he probably won't play as well as he did yesterday or on Thursday. I mean, Sunday. Damn. Because that's a very volatile and unstable stat, play under pressure. This game, Brady and his team coming off of a win against the Chargers. Brady was great. Brady's been great the whole season. Minus a couple bad picks. Like, he has 2 bad pick sixes. The other 2 are just... the first one was... might get him to stop this route, but... Brady's been playing so well this year. And it just proves that with a better supporting cast and whatever the hell he had in New England last year, Brady can still be a good NFL quarterback. Never mind good, a great NFL quarterback. He might not be in that Mahomes, Wilson tier, but anymore, but he's right underneath that. So yeah. The Bears, I don't think they're that good. The Bucs should win, and I think they'll cover. Their defense could give them a little bit of trouble, kind of. I wonder if Chris Godwin's playing this game. He's been in and out of the lineup all season. But, yeah. Rematch of the Super Bowl. Damn, what number is it? The one where Foles played up against Brady and was pretty good. A rematch of Brady versus Foles, which is interesting. I think Brady will get the best of Foles here, as the Bears prove that they were a fraudulent 3-0 team in the beginning of the season. I think that the Buccaneers win this game and cover. Now, to start off the 1 o'clock slate, I want to start off with Washington versus the Rams because I want to talk about the Dwayne Haskins benching, as he was benched for Kyle Allen earlier today as I record this podcast. Which is interesting because he came off of what arguably is his best game of the season against arguably the best defense in the NFL. Granted, they didn't play a full Ravens game. Like, he was only under pressure 20% of his dropbacks, which is a pretty low amount. Relative to how much pressure the other quarterbacks that they've played have underwent. Gets benched for Kyle Allen, which means Trevor Lawrence is probably going to go to DC at this point. Well, I'm not 100% sure if they're worse than the Jets, but it's definitely in the cards now. Well, it's been in the cards, but now that they've given up on Haskins, you're basically penciling yourself in for a quarterback. And especially since Kyle Allen's playing, you're penciling yourself in for a top 3, probably higher pick in the NFL draft. So if you want an upgrade at quarterback, that's definitely isn't the way you want to go. But if you want a change at quarterback, this is definitely the way you would go if you really wanted to change at quarterback. Now, I don't know. I was in the camp of drafting Tua. Not like leading the charge of drafting Tua, but I thought they should definitely entertain the idea or put enough smoke out that they wanted Tua to trade back. Because trading back was really what I wanted the team to do at number 2. Instead, we don't. We draft an edge rusher who is really good, but at the same time, it doesn't have that big of an impact on whether the team is a great team or not. And then you draft the running back with your second pick in the draft. Like, they didn't really help Haskins out at all, really. Or the team didn't get that much better over the offseason. But, yeah. So Haskins was dealing with a pretty bad supporting cast coming into this season. Outside of Terry McLaurin, of course. But it didn't improve. You draft the running back, which isn't going to move the needle one bit. Even though I liked Antonio Gibson coming into the draft, Antonio Gibson's been good in the NFL. Hasn't mattered a lick as they still have the worst offense in the NFL. So, or one of the worst, because by EPA they're 28th, which isn't high, pretty low. But yeah, they have like one of the higher rush EPAs too, and it still hasn't mattered because their pass game is so dreadful right now. And it's not even like Haskins is turning the ball over, minus that Browns game. Other than that game, it's not even like Haskins was turning the ball over. Like, they just don't move the ball. So, yeah. They're coming into this game right now, though, as 9.5-point underdogs. With Kyle Allen playing. We know how Kyle Allen played last year. He won a couple of games last year. I mean, granted, one was against the Texans where Deshaun Watson couldn't complete a deep pass to save his life. How many games did he win? He went 5-11 last year. I don't remember the schedule to a T, but whatever. Oh, they're 7-point favorites. They're 7.5-point favorites. That line moved down from 9 after it being 9.5 earlier in the week. I don't think this is adjusted yet to, not adjusted, but I don't think it's adjusted to the fact that Kyle Allen's playing now because it moved down 2 points, but after what the Rams did against the Giants, which was pretty bad, only won 17-9. That was a pretty bad offensive performance from the Rams. Yeah. I do think that the Rams are going to win. I do think that they'll cover that too because, well, I don't know. Because Kyle Allen's not that good, but he really isn't good. He's not better than Dwayne Haskins in my opinion, but no, yeah, I'm going to go with the Rams because I still don't think Washington can really cover well. They have a good pass rush. But their coverage unit is still, like, sketchy at best. So, you get them as high as 8. I mean, the offense is so bad in Washington. But if the Rams play like they did last week against the Giants, then, I mean, Washington ends up covering that. I don't know, because I don't think, like, I think that Rams performance... Well, I don't think that Rams performance against the Giants is indicative of what the Rams are or what they've been doing before that game are indicative of what the Rams are from like a offensive standpoint. I think they're somewhere in the middle of between that. But Washington's so much worse on offense that I don't think I can really back them to get 7. So I'm going to go with the Rams to cover and win the game outright. So, yeah, let's get on to the next game. Titans versus the Bills. I'm not 100% sure if this game is even happening. So, yeah, because apparently 3 hours ago, there was another positive test in the Tennessee Titans locker room and the Tennessee Titans on the Tennessee Titans roster, which definitely puts this game in jeopardy after not playing last week due to COVID-19 as well. Would probably be the game of the week, maybe. I don't know. I don't like this slate of games because Eagles Steelers sounded good on paper in the preseason. That's about the only game on the schedule, but it's a pretty bad slate. Bills versus Titans was probably my game of the week coming into this week, and it's not happening. It's potentially, nothing set in stone, not happening. Another positive test. We're coming up, what's today, Wednesday? Like, how many days up before the game? Like 4? I don't know. Yeah, this was gonna... I don't know how much depth I want to go into this game, because if it doesn't happen, then it's just a waste of time, but whatever. Let's talk about it anyway. Let's take a deep dive anyway. The Tennessee Titans versus the Bills. I can't find the line for this game. It might not be up because of the fact that the game could potentially not happen. The line might not even be up for this game. And I don't think it is. Damn. Well, anyway. The Bills versus the Titans. I mean, this was probably my game of the week coming in the week. Josh Allen and his Bills are playing well. Ryan Tannehill and his Titans on a bit of a roller coaster ride. They probably didn't deserve to win the Vikings game. They kicked 7,000 field goals. Still ended up winning. Beat the Jags by 3. But they're missing A.J. Brown. They were missing Adoree Jackson. Like, this is a chance for their guys to get healthy. So let's say the game doesn't happen, hypothetically. You get a chance to get back some of the guys from COVID, Adoree Jackson and A.J. Brown. This team has a chance to come back fully healthy. So whoever the hell they play coming off of this potentially like 2-week hiatus, their team as a whole is probably more well rested than anybody else. Even though they might not be practicing because of in-person, they might do limited in-person activity, but they're going to come back well rested. The guys at hand are going to come back healthier than they ever have been, potentially. With a potential 2-week hiatus, they're getting back some of the guys that were injured, like A.J. Brown or Adoree Jackson. That really helps this team out a ton. I mean, then the Bills would be coming off of a Thursday nighter, potentially. It depends on where they move this game to, because they play on Thursday night next week against Kansas City, which is by far the best Thursday nighter that's been on the schedule this week. I mean, this year. So, yeah. I guess those are the quick thoughts of the game, because it's potentially not happening. Yeah. And let's go to the next game, though. Jaguars versus the Texans. Jaguars coming in this game as... Damn, I just went to the wrong place. The Jaguars are coming in this game as dogs. I think by like 5 or 6 points. The Texans are coming fresh off firing Bill O'Brien. They're 6-point favorites against the Jaguars. I mean, I don't know. Texans haven't looked great. I expected way more for them. I expected way more from Deshaun Watson independently, and he hasn't. He might have showed that he might not be that guy that's going to consistently elevate the supporting cast around him. Because it hasn't looked great. Well, no. I mean, maybe that's wrong. Maybe I'm overreacting. Because he has done some things pretty well. But, yeah. They're coming to this game as 6-point favorites. Jaguars coming fresh off a loss against the Bengals. Minshew back-to-back weeks hasn't been spectacular. I mean, he was okay last week. But, nothing special. And Minshew is a volatile quarterback. You don't really know what you don't really know what to expect from Gardner Minshew on a week-to-week basis. So he could come out this game and outduel I almost called him Dwayne Haskins and outduel Deshaun Watson. Or he could play like he did the last 2 weeks of the season. Well, those are kind of two ends of the spectrum. He was awful against the Dolphins and at least viable against the Bengals. I mean, long story short, I think the Texans win, get back on track. Like, their schedule got easier after that Steelers game, and it didn't win a game that was pretty easy. But then again, the Vikings might have got their offense back on track, so yeah. And the Texans are very defunct on offense. And against the Jaguars, they could look better on offense. Potentially. I'm not 100% sure because they still have some coverage pieces that can make some plays. C.J. Henderson, Miles Jackson, one of the best linebackers in the NFL this year. I'm gonna go with the Texans. But the thing is, I think they'll cover. I think they'll cover and win the game outright because. Well, then again, I don't know because I don't know how Minshew's gonna play. Minshew's so unpredictable as a quarterback. So, anyway, I'm gonna go with the Texans though. I'm going to go with the Texans over the Jaguars. Next game, Bengals versus the Baltimore Ravens. Baltimore coming off of a win against the Redskins, Washington. Bengals coming off of their first win, Joe Burrow's first win in the NFL, versus the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, the line for this game, I think, is a double-digit spread. And yeah, it is. Baltimore are 13.5-point favorites, which is interesting. I don't know. I don't think that setting Joe Burrow 10, you're giving. This is interesting. Joe Burrow, I don't like looking at things this way, but isn't he undefeated against the spread this year? Anyway, I don't like looking at things this way, though, but Joe Burrow hasn't lost a game by more than 5 points in the entirety of the NFL. Granted, the Ravens are way better than the other teams he's played this season, so that probably won't matter when it comes to how that will affect this game. It probably doesn't matter, but Joe Burrow hasn't lost by 5 points in the NFL. Now, granted, they played the Chargers, who suck on offense, Eagles, who suck all around, low-key. The Browns, who, they put up 30 points and lost by 5. It was a backdoor cover situation as they scored on the last possession of the game, but whatever. And then they beat the Jaguars. So, and then tied with the Eagles. So, damn, this is interesting because I don't know if Baltimore will cover that. Because they almost didn't cover 14 against Washington. And the Bengals are a much better offensive team than Washington. And this isn't 14, this is 13.5, so they could. Baltimore would probably run all over the Bengals, though. The Bengals have an atrocious run D. And the Ravens have one of the best running games in the NFL. They probably, run all over them. And they probably throw all over them, too. So this could be a massacre, but I think Joe Burrow will hold his own. Potentially. Unless the Ravens blitz on top of this offensive line already being awful, Joe Burrow might get killed back there. But, yeah. I don't know, because I'll put a little bit of money on the 13.5, personally. But, because that's a big number. And Joe Burrow in this offense is much better than some of the other teams. You can get him as low as 12, too. That's interesting, because there's definitely a possibility in which the Ravens just run all over the Bengals, do whatever they want on offense, and because the Ravens have arguably the best defense in the NFL, they just can't keep up. Now, granted, coming into the season, I thought the Bengals had a pretty good and underrated receiver unit. They had A.J. Green. Turns out he might be washed. T. Higgins, who I wasn't a huge fan of, but He's there. Tyler Boyd is one of the best receivers in the NFL in terms of coming out of the slot alignment. He plays like most of his snaps in the slot. Historically, he's like what 60%? He played like 60% of his snaps in the slot last year. He might have to play on the outside mainly because a ton of people got injured last year. But I mean, yeah, Tyler Boyd though, one of the better receivers from the slot. Tyler Boyd played 76% of his snaps in the slot last season. So yeah, he's one of the best slot receivers in the NFL. And then you had John Ross, who as a fourth option seems not so bad as trying to rely on him as a second or third option, maybe sometimes first, as just like a deep threat to the top of the defense, but it doesn't really matter if you can't catch the football at all. Like when you can't catch the football at all, it doesn't really matter. And then you have Auden Tate, who's a contested catch guy, doesn't separate at all, but a contested catch guy is like your fifth option. Alex Erickson, who is also another slot guy who was forced to play on the outside last year due to a ton of injuries to their receiver core. I thought they had an underrated unit as a receiver core. So what I'm saying is they could probably, I don't know, because the Ravens are just really damn good on defense in terms of how they scheme it up, the talent on the defense. But that seems like a big number for a Joe Burrow-led team. That seems like a big number for a Joe Burrow-led team. But the Ravens are also really, really good as well, so I'm not 100% sure. I'm going to go with the Ravens to win. I lace them on 13.5. On the Bengals covering 13.5. But I think the Ravens will win this game. So, yeah. Next game, though. Carolina Panthers versus the Atlanta Falcons. Atlanta is coming in this game as 2-point favorites against the Panthers. Earlier this week on the look ahead, they came into this game as 3.5-point favorites, so that moved down by 1.5 points after the Falcons got mauled and the Panthers ended up beating the Cardinals. Now, I've done my Cardinal spiel 100 times, and I don't feel like doing it again, which means I'm going to do it again. I don't think the Cardinals are I thought the Cardinals were overrated. Coming into that game. Coming into the season, I was pretty high on them, but like after seeing them play and like how they played, it really wasn't like, sure, they won the game, but they beat the 49ers with Jimmy Garoppolo playing like utter shit and with and against Washington, and Washington as a whole is utter shit. So, yeah, they beat the Cardinals. The Falcons are 2-point favorites. This is interesting because the Falcons have been bad. I was about to say blown a lead in every game. Never mind that. There could be a lot of points here, maybe. I mean, the total for this game, 53 points. I mean, I think that can go over pretty easily. I mean, the Panthers are capable of some pretty good offensive performances, though Teddy Bridgewater on the season hasn't been that good, though. But, yeah. I probably bet the over. There's not much stopping overs in today's NFL. So, yeah. Hold on. But the Falcons are coming off getting murked by the Packers. Yeah, Aaron Rodgers is arguably the best quarterback in the NFL right now, so there's a difference there. And I don't think that they'll get chopped up like that against the Panthers, though the Panthers do have weapons to make the Falcons' defense look worse than it is. But the Falcons probably are going to look better defensively, especially getting AJ Terrell back. But I don't know if he's back. He's back in the building, though. I'm not quite sure if he's playing again, though. I mean, but back to the total, since I have it up again. I mean, it's basically even. They're both plus. I mean, they're both minus 110. So, yeah, anyway. I mean, the Falcons' offense is probably going to look better against the Panthers. I don't think the Panthers' defense is that good. Like they looked better from on the defensive front. They looked better against the Chargers and the Cardinals, who have pretty bad offensive lines. Like they looked better in that situation. I don't think they're overall a good offensive line though. I mean, a good overall good defense. Their defensive line has been bad, other than this one game. I mean, Derek Brown was playing so poorly that he kind of had to play better. And Brian Burns was a beast. Yaturgos Matos has been pretty solid. But all that came against a pretty bad O-line. Well, I mean, Yaturgos Matos was actually good before that. Well, not good, but decent before that. And kind of just enhanced what he could do against some pretty shitty O-lines. But, yeah. Falcons, on the other hand, I mean, they have played two of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. Like, of course your defense is going to look silly versus Russell Wilson, the Cowboys' offense, the Packers' offense. But then again, this is something that's continuing from last year. Like, last year, their defense was so bad that they were making Jacoby Brissett and Marcus Mariota look good. I mean, at least they were able to make Trubisky look bad. At least they were able to make Trubisky look bad. Because last year, that might not have been possible. Like, I think they took a slight step up from last year. But last year, they were like the worst defense in the NFL. So, yeah. But, yeah, last year, they were making guys like Mariota and Jacoby Brissett look good. This year, they've played against the Cowboys, Packers, and Seahawks, who have three of the best offenses in the NFL. Like I said, for the Cowboys, I think their defense gets better from here. Now, they'll probably look better against the Panthers. The Panthers do have some underrated weapons, too, though. They have a pretty good receiver core as well. So, this is a tough matchup to pick because the Falcons are the Falcons, and I'm done on the Falcons. They have disappointed time and time again. I'm done with the Falcons. I backed the Panthers multiple times this season as dogs. They're coming in. This is the closest the line has been for them because I think even against the Raiders, they were 3-point dogs. But I think I've backed I've backed Carolina in like every game they played this year, minus the Bucks game, which is really interesting. So yeah, do I do it again? This game is kind of a toss-up. I do think that the Falcons have a really good defense. I mean, really good offense. And it's going to make the Panthers' defense look worse than it did against a pretty bad offense in the Chargers. And, well, the Cardinals don't have a bad offense. The Cardinals don't have a bad offense, but I don't really know what to think about it. Their offense is very middle of the road, I'd say. I don't think it's terrible. Like, it's not bottom of the league. It also isn't, like, the pinnacle of an offense. So, yeah. Like, in terms of EPA per play, they're 19th. So, I mean, they're slightly below average. I mean, that's probably in, like, the average. Like, they're an average tier of team from an EPA standpoint. From EPA per play passing or dropback EPA, which factors in sacks, they're 24th. Which, I mean, makes sense. Like, they're not that good on offense. Kyler Murray's running the ball well. They're not running the ball well. But that's the Cardinals. Why do I keep talking about the Cardinals? I'm gonna go with that. I'm gonna go with Atlanta. I'm gonna go with the Falcons. So yeah. Next game though. Raiders versus the Chiefs. Another game that is potentially up in the air, as there have been COVID cases at the Patriots, and they played against the Chiefs, and then there was COVID stuff with the Raiders. So this game is also kind of up in the air. Now the line is still up, but it's not on DraftKings. 13.5, 14. Chiefs coming in as 13.5 or 14-point favorites. That seems about appropriate. They came off their worst game of the season. Their offense was not good. They got a pick six, a tap pass touchdown. Mahomes was two tap pass touchdowns. Mahomes was like awful last week, and they still scored 26 points and won. Then again, they did play Brian Hoyer, so I mean that kind of slash Jared Stidham. So I mean like that kind of helped out their cause, but overall the Chiefs were not good last week, and still came out with a win on their worst game of the season. But context of Brian Hoyer, so yeah. I mean, the Raiders, I thought they were overrated by the market. They came in as only 3-point dogs to the Bills, and that didn't seem right. Like I thought they were overvalued coming off of that Saints win. I thought they were overvalued. Now the Chiefs, on the other hand, are really good. The Chiefs are really good. They should probably win. And cover with no... I'm going to say cover with no problem. They should probably win, though. Definitely. Because there's not much that the Raiders are going to do to stop Kansas City. So... like, there's not much... yeah, there's not much in general you're going to do to stop Kansas City. I mean, yeah. So I'm going to go with the Chiefs to beat the Raiders. Next game... Jets versus the Cardinals. I have received word. I looked on Twitter a couple minutes ago, and I saw that Sam Darnold will also not play. He's out. Joe Flacco in, which is interesting. Now the line hasn't moved for that yet because it literally just happened about an hour ago. So. Right now, I don't even see. Oh, okay. The 7-point favorites, which dropped from 8.5 on the look ahead earlier this week. I mean, whatever. That'll probably move itself back up potentially since Joe Flacco's starting the game this week. Cardinals, I did my Cardinal spiel last time, so I'm not going to do it this time. I mean, I did it for the last game, so I'm not going to do it for this game, even though this is the Cardinals game. The Cardinals play the Jets. They should beat the Jets. They should really beat the Jets. They should beat them. They should beat the Jets, especially with Flacco playing. There's no reason they should lose this game. But it's a total for this game. Because, I mean, I think they cover too, because the Jets are bad. They're probably the worst team in the NFL. So... whoa, the total for Chiefs is 66 on DraftKings. That's rather interesting. I mean, Arizona, this is only 47. I mean, I guess that makes sense. But, yeah, Arizona should win this game. Though, I'm not going to say it. The Jets are bad. The Jets are probably the team that's going to have their 1 overall pick. But right behind them will be Washington. So, yeah. That's that game. I'm going to speed it up a little bit. I'd spent like 10 minutes on every game to this point. So, I'm going to speed it up a little bit. I know that wasn't a deep analysis, but do I really want to talk about the fucking Jets? No. So, next game. Eagles versus the Steelers. Now, this game is kind of interesting because the Eagles are broken offensively. Like, broken. And I don't think the Steelers are any better. Well, no, they're better, but I don't think they're good offensively. The Eagles, I mean, Carson Wentz looks terrible. His accuracy looks awful. He has the lowest percentage of accurate passes right now at like 50-something%, maybe lower. He's one of the highest percentages of inaccurate throws, uncatchable throws. His accuracy has been, like, dreadful. And the Steelers' defense is another one of those defenses that is kind of tough to deal with because they'll blitz a ton. They'll just make your life as difficult as possible. which is what defenses are supposed to do. The Steelers, though, offensively, I still don't think they're good. They ranked 13th in EPA per play, but they played the Giants and the Broncos. And I forgot who they played last week, which is rather interesting. Well, they didn't play last week because the game got postponed. Thinking about week 3. They played the Texans. I don't know. Because I don't think their offense is that good, though. Like, their offense is kind of... Didn't Deontay Johnson and Juju Smith-Schuster go down in that game, though, against the Texans? That's interesting. They're getting them back this week, though. I mean, what's the line for this game? I think the Eagles are coming in as 7-point dogs, which is interesting. They came in as 7-point dogs to Nick Mullins last week, so I always thought that was kind of weird. Nick Mullins probably shouldn't be favored in any game by 7 points. It's Nick Mullins. Yeah, no Shanahan's there. It's Nick Mullins. Now, the Steelers' defense has been stifling this year, but I mean, they played against Jeff Driscoll and the Giants, and the Giants weren't even that bad offensively. So, I mean, mainly because Daniel Jones made a ton of plays under pressure, but yeah, I don't know. I think the Steelers are a slightly overrated team right now because they gave up 21 points to the Texans in the first half. Then again, they didn't score the whole second half, so I don't know. I'm not sure what to think about this team. The Steelers. I mean, they're good on defense. They were good on defense last year. That's carried over to this year. They're good on defense, but I don't think their offense is still at that elite level. Now, that probably doesn't matter in a game against the Eagles, who are worse on offense. So, and you're one of the best defensive teams, you should probably look a bit better on defense because your quarterback is. You should probably this defense is going to come out of this game maybe looking like Steel Curtain 2.0. They are. I mean, I think they'll win. I don't know if they'll cover 7 points though. No. Yeah, I think they'll cover. I don't know. I don't think their offense is really good enough to actually pull that off. Unless the Eagles score like 7 points, I don't know if their offense is good enough to pull that off. But then again, the Eagles' offense might not be good enough to score 7 points on the Steelers. So I'm gonna go with the Steelers. I don't think they'll cover though. I don't think they'll cover 7. I think that's too high. The Eagles are so injured, and Wentz is just playing like shit. Damn, I'm gonna go with Pittsburgh to win the game. I'm gonna go with them to cover because I don't know if the Eagles' offense is really good enough to get 7. So yeah, next game. Let's go on to the 4 o'clock slate of games. Matt Breida and his 49ers. Oh, he's on the Dolphins now. The Dolphins versus the 49ers. 49ers coming off of a... Hold on, let me talk about this line first. We're talking about last week. The 49ers are coming into this game. It's 8.5-point favorites. For some reason, the line is only up in one place right now. Let me refresh my shit. A lot of stuff is probably going to change after I refresh this too. Okay, they're 8.5-point favorites universally, basically. And for some pretty good reason. I mean, I think they're getting Jimmy Garoppolo back, which is going to be... which is big, because he's better than Nick Mullins. After the Giants game, people were thinking Nick Mullins could possibly take Jimmy G's job. Looks like that is shut down real quick. There were rumors. Well, I don't think there was rumors, but people wanted the Dolphins to start Tua. Ryan Fitzpatrick is going to be the starter. We might see some Tua eventually. I mean, I think for them, they would want to keep him out the whole season. Their offensive line is so bad. He's going from like a great offensive line to a terrible one, which is a big transition for anyone to make. But he's also going from a great offensive line to the worst one in the NFL, potentially. Austin Jackson hasn't paid off. He's been pretty bad. Like, their offensive line still sucks. Uh, yeah, they're coming off of a loss to Seattle in which the game was closer than you would expect, though it was never really in question. Now, the 49ers are coming off of a game in which they lost to the Eagles due to bad quarterback play. They have Jimmy Garoppolo to win that game. They're healthy in the receiver core again. Deebo Samuel's back. George Kittle's in. George Kittle's back, and he's back, back. George Kittle's still the best tight end in the NFL, as he was when he left. So, basically, the 49ers should win this game. If Jimmy G doesn't play, though, I think that changes the game. Because I'm pretty sure they still have Sherman out. I'm pretty sure not pretty sure. Nick Bosa is out. So, their defense is going to be worse. But at the same time, it might not matter that much because the Dolphins' offense is pretty bad too. But with the volatile nature of Ryan Fitzpatrick, there's a chance that he has a relatively good game. I don't know. Because Sherman is still out. He's out till week 6. Expected return is week 6. They have multiple corners, not out, but Kollmann Williams doubtful with an ACL. That's interesting. Emmanuel Mosley, questionable. Akella Witherspoon, questionable. They can get Mostert back, questionable. Jimmy G, questionable. All their secondary is questionable coming into this game. All their secondary is questionable coming into this game. But if they get Jimmy G back, none of that might matter. It's not like Jimmy G. I'm hyping up Jimmy G as if he's like Patrick Mahomes, but Jimmy G is a better quarterback than Nick Mullins and a better quarterback than Ryan Fitzpatrick. And he's a pretty good quarterback. So getting him back is pretty big. And it would help them out a lot. But it probably doesn't matter whether they have him or not against the Dolphins because Dolphins aren't that good. Though I am pretty high on on the team. Even though I was pretty high coming into the season on the team. Even though I was pretty high on this team coming into the season. Yeah. Byron Jones could come back. That could be pretty big for them. But yeah, the San Francisco 49ers should win. I don't know if they cover though, but the 49ers should probably win. No, I think they cover too. Well, they had to win by 10. Yeah, they cover. I think they'll cover as well. Now moving on to Dallas versus New York. Dallas is coming into this game as pretty big favorites. There's a lot of pretty wide spreads today, like 7s, 8s, 13s. There's 2 13s, and then Dallas is a 10-point favorite on some places. You can go down to 9.5. I think that Dallas is the best team in the division. They only won 1 game. Everyone's going to talk about their defense and them not giving the ball to Zeke enough. I don't think giving the ball to Zeke is going to change the issue. All you're going to do is just score less points, and your defense is still going to get trounced. So passing the ball is definitely okay. If you run with Zeke, you score 16 points. You run the ball with Zeke. You do a run-heavy attack. It's very ironic that the most run-heavy they were was week number 1, and they scored 17 points. So imagine they go run-heavy on top of Zeke fumbling every other run play, dropping passes. He's been awful this year. Imagine them just running Zeke down the other team's throat for the tune of 17 points while still giving up 47. It's not going to change what the other team does. You might steal maybe one possession, maybe. But even still, you're down 40 to 17. It doesn't matter at that point. And so you're going to have to end up passing anyway. Whatever. Their defense, though, has been atrocious this season. But, like I said when I talked about Atlanta, they have played against Seattle. They have played against Atlanta, who has great weapons. They have played up against the Rams, who've had a pretty solid offense, and they only held them to 20. So, the Cowboys, I think their defense is not good, because I didn't think it was good coming into the season, because their secondary was so bad. They needed corners when they had Byron Jones, and they lost Byron Jones. Mainly because you decided to pay Zeke $90 million. But, I digress. You lose Byron Jones, on a team that already had a relatively bad secondary. You lose your best player in the secondary. I never thought this defense was going to be good. It's been worse than I thought it was going to be, but they've played a couple of the best offenses in the NFL. So, I think against a team like the Giants, who don't have the best offense in the NFL, I think the Cowboys' defense will look much better because defense is more based on the opponent you face. And they still have, like, one of the best offenses in the NFL, kind of. So, yeah, I mean, they have the weapons, but, I mean, yeah, no, they have one of the best offenses in the NFL. So, yeah. I'm going to go with Dallas to cover this number and win outright. So, yeah, I don't think the Giants are good. If I were the Giants and you're almost inevitably picking in the top 3, and you have a chance to take, like, Lawrence or Fields, I'd definitely pull the trigger. It's not like Daniel Jones has, like, been good. So, yeah. I think Dallas wins and covers the spread. On to the next game, though. Patriots versus the Broncos. I'm not quite sure if Cam plays this game. I think he has to do with, like, a 10 or 14-day quarantine, which takes him out for this game, too, I think. Which kind of changes the game. And Stephon Gilmore is gone, which also changes the game pretty heavily. New England, coming to this game as 8-point favorites against Denver. Denver, I think, is still starting like Driscoll / Rippin because, I mean, the Rippin era is probably over at this point, but they're probably starting Driscoll potentially because Drew Lock is listed as questionable for this week with a shoulder injury, so he could play, but it's also a shoulder injury. But at the same time, I mean, Cortland Sutton's out, KJ Hamler's out. He's not going to have weapons, and I don't think Drew Lock is that good anyway. So, yeah. This team is banged up. Now, this is a Stidham / Hoyer versus Driscoll / Rippin. It's more 8 points given to Belichick because the players by itself are on the same tier. They are all terrible. But Bill Belichick is so much better than Vic Fangio that might be the 8 points. I don't know, because I think talent-wise, this banged-up Denver Broncos team, this sort of, I mean, okay, never mind. The Patriots are more healthy, but if they don't have Cam Newton playing, then there's no way in hell I'm giving them 8. There's no way in hell I'm favoring them 8 points. I don't care how injured the Broncos are. Did you watch Brian Hoyer? Did you watch Jarrett Stidham? Like, neither of them were good. Stidham was better for maybe a drive, but he wasn't good either. Like, how? Never mind, bruh. It's not like Stidham wasn't good. Whatever. I'm trying to get to the injury report of because I don't think. Okay, so Cam Newton isn't gonna play. Josh Uche's out. Stephon Gilmore's out for this game. There's some big injuries on the side of the Patriots. Shaq Mason questionable. Like, there's some pretty big injuries on the side of New England and Denver, to the point where 8 points just doesn't seem right. I mean, there's not a true. I mean, Belichick is really good, so I think they win the game, but I don't know if they cover 8 points. Because I don't even know who's going to start for them. I mean, maybe a game plan built around Stidham and his abilities. You know what? That just made me think about it. I'm going to go with New England because of Bill Belichick solely, basically. I'm going to go with the Patriots to win. I don't know if they cover. I think that really just reeled me in. Damn. That really just reeled me in. I think I'm going to go with I mean, I'm going to go with New England to win the game, but I don't know if they cover 8 points. Let me see what else they're at, because the only line that's showing up for me is 8 points on FanDuel. Let me find the other line. It's so slow. I don't know. Oh, it's not even up on here. Because it might not happen. Damn. Anyway, yeah, this game might not happen. I should have prefaced that earlier due to the COVID stuff. We'll see, though. But, yeah, I'm going to go with New England to win the game. Next game is what's probably the game of the week now. Gotta think about it. Browns versus Colts. The Colts coming to this game favorited by, well, the look ahead for this game is like 2. I think it got out further. No, okay, yeah. The look ahead for this game was 2.5. The current line, as I record this, is 2 points, as low as 1.5 for 1. So it's basically a pick 'em. Well, plus 2 earlier then, but it's basically a pick 'em. That kind of makes sense. I am lower on the Colts. I think the Colts are another one of those teams that are kind of overrated. I mean, their defenses play well, but they're like, well, what, first in EPA? They're the best defense in terms of EPA per play allowed. Like, they're playing really good, but they're playing up against the Jets, Vikings, Jags, who they lost to, and the Bears, who the Bears have weapons, but they don't really have a quarterback. So, I mean, I don't know if their defense is as good as it's showed to be so far, because, like I said, defense is more based on your opponent, and when you play up against shitty opponents, you're gonna look pretty good on defense. No, because this is a pretty random great defensive performance. Their defense last year wasn't that good. So, I mean, they added DeForest Buckner, but he wouldn't be the reason this defense just changed overnight. Nor would Xavier Rhodes, though he has played well this year. I mean, in terms of offensive EPA, the Colts are 22nd in the NFL, which gives more merit to the fact that I don't think their offense is that good. And it really isn't that good, because 22nd in EPA per play is in the bottom quadrant of the league. I mean, they do a relatively run-heavy attack, and it's not really efficient. Jonathan Taylor is running at 3.8 per carry, which isn't that good. But they're 6th in passing EPA, which seems weird. I mean, that doesn't seem too weird. I mean, not Ryan Fitzpatrick. Phillip Rivers has been pretty good up to last game. Last game he didn't look good at all, really. They ended up winning. They only scored like 19 points. I don't think their offense is good. I don't think their offense as a whole is good. They don't really have too many weapons to throw to, especially with Paris Campbell out, Michael Pittman out. It doesn't seem like the weapons for that team aren't that good. So, I mean, yeah. The Browns, on the other hand, they're the best offense, probably by a wide margin, that the Colts have played up to this point. If Justin Jefferson played when they played the Vikings, I give that to the Vikings, but he didn't. So this is by far the best. This is by far the best team that they've ever played in terms of an opposing offense. I mean, the Browns secondary is ravaged. There's a ton of guys injured. I think most of them are coming back this game though. Greedy Williams listed as questionable. Denzel Ward is back. Denzel Ward was questionable coming into the week. Nick Chubb is on IR. He won't be coming back. Grant Delpit, we all know he's on IR for the season. Torn Achilles. I really wouldn't see him play. I loved Grant Delpit in college. I really he would be an amazing addition to this team. But yeah, I mean, the Browns coming off of some pretty good, I don't know, they're really run heavy. They're super run heavy, and that almost lost in the game. I don't know if they'll be able to do that in this game though, because I think the run defense for the defensive line for the Colts is pretty good. Justin Houston, DeForest Buckner. I almost said Jabal Sheard, even though I know he's not there. Yeah, they have a pretty good, and Darius Leonard linebackers. They could probably they could stop the run pretty well. No, I don't think their corners are that good. We're coming off of a 2-year to maybe 3-year stretch of Xavier Rhodes being awful playing cornerback. And we have Kenny Young who's in the Kenny Moore who's in the slot. Their secondary isn't really good. And I don't know if Xavier Woods. I don't think Xavier Woods. Xavier Rhodes can. I don't think Xavier Rhodes can guard Odell Beckham, or even Jarvis Landry for that matter. Yeah. So, but then I really just don't trust Baker in pure dropback situations. But I don't even know if their offense can even force that out of the Browns. Because I don't think the Colts have a good offense. But it's not that the Browns have a great defense either. But I don't think the Colts offense is that good. So they'll probably look respectable because the Colts aren't really that good on offense. I'm going to go with Cleveland this game. I think. Yeah, I'm going to go with Cleveland this game. I think they're a better team than Indianapolis right now. I think their offense is performing better. I don't think their defense is better, but I think their offense is playing better. I think their defense it's okay. It's not like the Browns offense ranks 8th in EPA per play, which is very interesting. And they're 12th in EPA per dropback and 4th in EPA per run play. They have a pretty good overall offense. Though, I don't know. Because I think they could get away with a super run-heavy attack against this team rather than the Cowboys. Because the Cowboys are going to score points regardless. As we saw in that last game, the Cowboys looked down and out, and the Browns didn't move the ball in the fourth quarter. Now, hopefully Stefanski learns from that and at least gets semi-aggressive in the fourth quarter. Because running the ball to the tune of 20 total yards of offense isn't necessarily what you want from your team in the fourth quarter. That game should have been dead and gone. Instead, it wasn't. Cowboys crept their way back in, almost won. The Browns, speaking of their defense, they're 14th in EPA per play allowed. They're a middle of the pack defense. And they played up against the Cowboys. They played up against the Bengals, who have a relatively good offense in terms of the weapons. Who else did they play? They played the Ravens, who ran all over them. They played the Ravens, who stepped on their neck. And then they played the Washington, who has an awful offense, and that's probably what's skewing this number. So, yeah, I'm going to go with Cleveland to beat Indianapolis. On to the next game, Sunday Night Football. Vikings, who have been struggling, versus the Seahawks, who have been flourishing. And that is represented in the line of 7. It was at 9.5 on the look ahead, and it got down to that because the Vikings have gotten their offense back to a respectable level, and all it took was just to play your obviously better receiver in Justin Jefferson, and he has made that big of a difference on the offense. Justin Jefferson's been great so far. Adam Thielen's good. Justin Jefferson's been great. They have I wouldn't say they have a very good receiver core, but Thielen and Jefferson is a pretty good 1-2 punch if Jefferson stays at this level. And they're playing up against the Seahawks, whose defense has been sketchy. But like I said, for the Cowboys and the Falcons, who they played both of which, and they also played the Patriots. They played 3 of the best offenses. Now, granted, there were some injuries. And in some of those games, Jamal Adams hasn't played full force since week 3 or week 2. But their defense isn't that good anyway, though. I don't know. I think their defense is kind of underrated. They played great offenses, which make your defense look way worse than it really is. And that could continue against the Vikings, who potentially have got their offense back on track. Now, then again, this is Kirk Cousins in a primetime game. No, I don't like to feed into those narratives, and I won't, but I'm just saying. This is Kirk Cousins in a primetime game. I mean, the Seahawks should probably win. The Seahawks should probably win. The Seahawks have been great this season. I mean, the Vikings less so. The Vikings are, like, kind of bad. I don't know. I don't really know what to think about the Vikings. Because, I mean, the last couple of weeks with Justin Jefferson in the lineup, their offense hasn't looked too bad. It's actually looked pretty good. I'm going to get the EPA per play on those 2 weeks. But, yeah, Justin Jefferson has made that big-ass difference for the team. Like, all it took was to take Olabisi Johnson out of the game and put in your first-round pick, who is obviously better at the time you drafted him. It was something about, you didn't know the playbook or something? Like, if he was that big of an upgrade over Olabisi Johnson, I don't give a damn how well he knew the playbook or not. Like, he's so much better than Olabisi Johnson. That, like, if it was that big of an upgrade, yeah, him being on the field where he started to play his most snaps, week 3 and 4, the Vikings have been 10th in EPA per play as a whole. They've been 13th in EPA per pass play, which is jumping up from like the low 20s, which they were before the Justin Jefferson eruption, basically. I mean, long story short, I'm gonna take I don't know why this game is on primetime, really. I mean, yeah, it seemed good on paper, but I was never high on the Vikings, so maybe that's why I think that. Like, the Vikings were heavily loved by the market. They were the division favorites in terms of Vegas odds. They were the favorites of the division, which also seemed weird. I mean, coming into the season, they were ranked number 3 for me behind the Lions and the Packers, and the Lions haven't really turned out. But yeah, I'm gonna go with Seattle to win this game. And probably cover 7 because, I mean, I don't know. I don't think the Vikings will be able to hang with Russell Wilson. Especially Kirk Cousins in a primetime game. Okay, let me not feed into that. I don't like feeding into that stuff, man. The next game, though. The Monday Nighter. Chargers versus Saints. Saints versus Chargers. The Monday night game for this week 5. Saints come into this game as the favorite, coming off of their best game of the season. 8.5-point favorites. I mean, the Chargers are also coming off of their best game of the season, so yeah. But New Orleans is coming off their best game of the season. They're a better team. Drew Brees is coming off of his best game. I mean, he threw the arm still doesn't look great. But at least he's attempting them now. He had 4 deep shots, which is double the amount he had the rest of the season. He had 4 deep shots in this one game, which is double the amount he had the rest of the season combined. And he threw it to the intermediate range outside the numbers. That touchdown to Emmanuel Sanders. He was much better than he was the rest of the season. And against the Chargers, who have a pretty good defense, I thought their defense was pretty good coming in. I mean, it has been for the most part, kind of. But, yeah. I mean, the Chargers, I don't know if that performance that Justin Herbert had was replicatable. Because in that was, like, a ton of he only missed 5 throws. But the throws he missed were, like, missed. And some of the ones he hit were pretty odd. I don't know. That was like I don't know. That one, the Keenan Allen was something. This should have been a deflection, but then Keenan Allen kind of I don't know. That was a good throw. Kind of lucky though. Kind of. I mean, Justin Herbert's been pretty good. No, it hasn't been as good as some people are making it out to be though. Like, he still has one of the highest percentages of uncatchable throws. Well, that might change after this week, actually. I don't think about it, but he has one of the highest percentage of uncatchable throws. Like, he has a plethora of bad interceptions. Like, every interception he's thrown this season has been, like, awful. The one against the Chiefs taking the cake for the worst one of the season. That was terrible. The one against the Panthers where he threw it right to Dante Jackson and almost went for 6. That was bad too. The one against the Bucs was bad, but it wasn't as bad as the other two. He just straight up missed the guy. Like, it hasn't been as good as people have made it out to be. Like, people are acting like he's came in like fucking Patrick Mahomes. Like, let's calm down here. I don't think they're going to win. I'm going to take the Saints, and I think they'll cover that as well. I think they'll cover and win. Because I mean, the Chargers, they had an absolutely explosive offensive attack last week, which is the complete opposite it's been this past season. And I would expect more of their baseline or maybe something in between. I still think the Saints are better, though. So I'm going to go with New Orleans to win the game. And now on to the last section of the podcast, the fantasy preview. This week, week 5, the fantasy preview. We got some start sit. That's what this basically is. Basically just some start sit stuff. That's basically what it is. Probably want to start Justin Jefferson. That's someone I want to start. Justin Jefferson's been great. Now, Adam Thielen would also be a pretty good play. When you look at the targets that have been given to him, when you look at the targets that have been given to Adam Thielen still out-targets Justin Jefferson. Justin Jefferson right now was at a highly unsustainable 23.6 yards per attempt or something like that. Which means there are a lot of air yards in that too. Same with Adam Thielen, though. I would play both of them potentially. Maybe like a stack type situation. Because the Seattle Seahawks, like I talked about their defense being better than it has been, being better than it's shown, these two are two receivers that could still make their defense look bad. If Kirk Cousins can distribute the ball, we'll see. I mean, the Seattle has no pass rush, so there's no pressure on Kirk Cousins to do it. It depends because Adam Thielen is getting the volume, but he doesn't have that much more volume than Justin Jefferson, to be fair. He's still edging him out slightly in terms of volume. I don't know who I would play in this situation. No, another one that I had on my own team personally, Miles Sanders. Oh, hold on. Let me talk about who you want to sit. My bad. You might want to sit Terry McLaurin, though I don't think that's because Terry McLaurin is one of the best receivers in the league at this point. But if he receives shadow coverage from Jalen Ramsey, which I don't think he's done much, he didn't do it to Stephon Diggs. He hasn't done it much, but he's also played up against teams with the best receiver core in the NFL. Like, I have in the same tier the Bucs, Cowboys, and Bills. He's played the Bills and the Cowboys, who all have 3 guys who are valuable options at receiver. So there is no shadowing there. Now, Washington, who has 1 guy who is a valuable receiver, and Terry McLaurin, you could see Jalen Ramsey follow Terry McLaurin and shadow Terry McLaurin. And Jalen Ramsey being one of the best corners in the NFL, it's going to be a great matchup to watch if he does shadow. But it might not be great for your fantasy team. It could be, though, because Terry McLaurin is really, really good right now. I don't know. I always feel like I shouldn't take him out of the lineup every week. I feel like he's somebody that I should be starting every week. I have him on, quite literally all of my fantasy teams, except for maybe 2. So, yeah. That might be someone you want to sit. I thought about sitting him last week. I sat him on some of my teams last week. Now, granted, the guys I put in for him ended up being better than him anyway, but he was still really good against the Ravens. I mean, one of my leagues I sat him for Adam Thielen and who was the other guy? I don't remember, but I knew I sat him for Adam Thielen and Will Fuller, and they both outscored him. And I almost sat him for Justin Jefferson, who he ended up outscoring anyway. Another one that I had on my team personally, Antonio Gibson or Miles Sanders. Antonio Gibson outscored him last week. Antonio Gibson isn't getting that much volume, though. To get production out of Antonio Gibson, you're looking at efficiency because Miles Sanders is going to get more volume. If I look at the last couple of games, Antonio Gibson's only had 17 carries. On the entirety of the season, Antonio Gibson has 13 carries. Oh, no, that was just last week. Hold on. over the entire course of the season, Antonio Gibson has 44 carries, which leads the team by a lot. And he has more snaps, but if you look over at Miles Sanders, who has more carries than Antonio Gibson. I mean, Antonio Gibson's getting, like, better receiving volume. But he didn't even have that many catches last week. He was just hyper efficient. He's just really good. Antonio Gibson the last 2 weeks, 22 carries. Miles Sanders in the last 2 weeks, though, as he missed the first couple of games and still has more carries. He missed the first game and still has more carries than Antonio Gibson. Miles Sanders has 31 carries, like I said, to Antonio Gibson's 22 carries in the last 2 weeks. Now, there's more volume. You're reliant more on the efficiency from Gibson. And against the Rams, who have given up multiple top-scoring running backs, most of which also had high volume. I mean, I don't know if Gibson's the play here. I think I'm going to go with Sanders. Another one, though, Will Fuller. Will Fuller could be a start here against the Jaguars. The Jaguars don't have a really good secondary. Will Fuller was good last week, especially from a fantasy standpoint. He's a good cornerback. I mean, C.J. Henderson has a speed to, like, run with him. We'll see how he's used, though. They have a different coach. We'll see if they utilize his deep speed a bit more. Another guy, Hollywood Brown. I mean, there's been a little bit left on the table. He's had a couple touchdowns overthrown by Lamar Jackson. Like, Lamar Jackson's leaving a bit on the table for Marquise Brown, and he's still been pretty good from a fantasy standpoint, minus that one game against the Chiefs. I mean, Atlanta's receivers versus Carolina, that's another good matchup. Carolina's receivers versus Atlanta, that's another good one. Dalton Schultz, have him starting on a lot of my teams. Robert Tonyan. See, I don't know about Tonyan because he's not getting volume. He only has 6 catches and has 3 touchdowns, which is very interesting. He was really good last week from a fantasy standpoint, but he's not getting anywhere near the volume you would want from your guy because he's very unsustainably efficient right now. He's hyper efficient right now, which I doubt stays this way. And then also, you have Mo Alley Cox, who's been one of the best receivers, who's been one of the best scorers from the tight end position, who also only has 11 targets, which is pretty weird. I don't like relying on guys to be efficient. I rather have the guys have the volume, and their efficiency helps, but I rather have them have the volume than the efficiency, because if you're getting low volume and you inevitably come crashing down to earth in a way, then you're a very high risk play. So, yeah. Yeah. And then also, to add to the Terry McLaurin point from a bit earlier, Kyle Allen is starting. I don't know how that's going to work out, but I mean, Terry McLaurin's going to be open, so we'll see. It is what it is, though. This is the end of the podcast. If you made it to the end, like, subscribe, comment, all that type of stuff. And, yeah, I'm out. Peace.